Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's gonna be a little bit of a different video. We're not gonna be working on the truck, the Corvette, or the SS. We're actually working on the IS350 today. And last year, about a year ago, I did the front brakes with Powerstop kit. And this is kind of a continuation of the video from last year. So I'll have a link in the description card above with a link to the front brakes. So in the back, as you guys can see, I've already been busy on the driver's side. I got the factory pads, factory rotor. And as you guys can see, I already have the new rotor and pads already installed. So what you get in the Z32 kit is a new rotor, and it's labeled rear passenger side, labeled front passenger side. You get a new set of pads, you get a new set of clips with it, and also a little package of brake grease. So those are the basic contents of the kit. I'll have a part number in the description below. I think it's like K6154, something like that. I'm not dyslexic, but I probably screwed up one of those numbers, but I think it might be 6514. I'll confirm in the video and as well as the description below. So that's the kit. I've already done the driver's side just to get a feel of how to get the rear brakes done. Like in the previous video I said, you know, I had never done Lexus brakes, and I haven't messed around with a single piston caliper in a long time, so it's been quite a while. But today we're going to be working on the passenger side, and as you guys can see, I already have the wheel taken off. I have the car jacked up. It is fully supported by jack stands, and I do have my floor jack with really no pressure on it underneath the rear diff. So that's kind of how you get the car up in the air. And now we're pretty much gonna be ready to get started on taking these brakes off. All right guys, it's gonna be pretty simple to get started. What you're gonna need is a 17mm socket. I don't recommend a deep well in this case because you really are not going to have the room between the caliper and these rear control arms. Yeah, so there's barely any room to get a 1/2-inch wrench under here. All right, got the top one, bottom one, and they're only torqued to 40 foot-pounds, so it's not super hard to get these off. You just gotta get them broke loose. All right. Use your impact. I'm sorry, your ratchet. And this is just a Miller 3/8 drive ratchet. I'm gonna buy one of these in a 1/2-inch. I just haven't picked one up yet. So 3/8 ratchet. Here's your bolts. Stop one. And here's gonna be your bottom one. So let's come out, nothing too complex, and then take the caliper off and just simply set it on top of the upper control arm. You guys can see the brake hose is under no tension, and if I had more room I probably would put it on a bucket, but there's just simply not enough room back here. So hey guys, there's something weird about these Lexus IS350s. The driver's side rear, I had to wail on it with a rubber mallet. It didn't move at all. Then I busted out my little sledgehammer, wailed on it with that. It didn't move. It broke a little bit loose. I had to put the car into, the car's a jack stand, so both rear wheels are off the ground. I had to put the car into reverse, turn the car on, put in gear so I could just move the rear axle. And I was able to, with it in reverse, hit it, turn it, hit it, turn it, hit it, turn it, and it came out. This side came right off. So I'm not I'm not entirely sure why that's like that. Oh, and there's a little rubber plug, little rubber grommet that I tried to get out with a big screwdriver out of the rotor because it fits inside the rotor. But honestly, it just ended up pushing it inside the rear brake hub. So don't lose that. All right, guys, we're gonna put some anti-seize on the hub. The reason you want to do that is because basically next time you want to service your vehicle, you're gonna want your rear rotors to be able to slide off, and just put it on the surface, put it on the hub ring, basically put it on there as well. And what I like to do is do the entire surface. It might be a waste of anti-seize, but if it prevents you from having to use a big hammer, put the car in drive, you know, basically, like I said, wail on the stupid thing to get the rotor off, you know, and that's due to a number of things. That could be due to the rotor being pushed really hard onto the hub by the caliper. That could be from the rear e-brake being out of alignment. You know, would need to be adjusted from the adjustment screw. There's one in here. It's because the shoes are sticking too far out. But I don't know. And honestly, guys, this actually was an issue up front, especially the driver's side. Sorry, the passenger side front. That was an issue on this car, and I honestly don't have any rhyme or reason why that is. Did it get over torqued from the factory? Because basically what happened was the rotor was rusted to the hub. I don't know about rusted, but just compressed. I don't know. So use a good amount of anti-seize, like I said, and I do highly recommend wearing gloves. I'm not using this hand for putting this application in, but the reason I recommend gloves is because this stuff gets in everything. It doesn't come off. My hand is now covered in it. I'm wearing gray gloves. You can't see it, but you know, it gets in everything. So throw out your glove because that's done. Now we're gonna go get the rotor. All right, guys. So here's the rear rotor. It's in a nice bag. So that's actually kind of a nice deal that they provided you a bag. And what we're gonna do now is actually clean the rotor surface on both sides. The reason you want to do that is because some rotors are shipped pre-oiled. I'm not sure if that's the right term, but they're shipped basically with a coating that's to prevent them from flash rusting with in shipment. And you know, rotors could probably sit around in a warehouse for years, so that's another issue. So, and you don't want to get any contaminants on your pads. I've actually done that once, and so that's why you want to really clean the surface of your rotor off, and especially the back, considering now once we put the rotor in, we won't be able to basically clean the back. I mean, you can, but it's not really be a good job. And also spray and clean out the inside hub, because that's going to ride against your e-brake drum shoes, and you're going to want that surface to be clean as well. So just use some brake cleaner. I use this is cheap stuff from AutoZone. It's nothing special. I always buy non-chlorinated because honestly, guys, you don't need chlorine. And if you ever weld and you use brake cleaner, if you use a chlorinated stuff, that can cause almost like chlorine gas, like old World War I chemical weapon. There's some reaction when chlorinated brake fluid gets heated. Basically, it's like some kind of. It can kill you. And I saw a thread a really long time ago about a guy welding, was cleaning his parts off with a brake cleaner, and he had all kinds of medical issues right after that. Come to find out, he was using chlorinated brake cleaner to clean off his parts when he was welding. So he was inhaling chlorine gas, which is never a good thing. So that's why I always recommend non-chlorine. So we got the rear rotor stuck on the car, just sticks right in and sprayed off one more time, prints off of it. And yeah, so that is the rear. And if you want to have an easier job of putting this back on, just take a lug nut and your impact or whatever tool you use to take the wheel off, and just tie it down, and just and this way when you put your caliper with the pads loaded on it, it'll go on real smooth. Now, say the other nice thing about the bags they ship the rotors in, it's a nice little trash bag. I've got one filled up on the other side, so we'll fill this one up too. So you're pretty much halfway done with this rear brake job. The only thing I'm going to put on now is the little rubber plug. This is what I was talking about. And just push it in. There you go. It's the little rotor plug. I'm not really sure what that's called. And now we get to do the awesome part of taking apart the brakes, putting new clips in, and putting new pads in. I struggled, guys, on the other side. I don't know if it's because the pads were just slightly, not the pads, but the clips were slightly bent the wrong way. I don't know. I just struggled really bad with the driver's side. Then once I like looked at it for 20 minutes, tried to work on it, you know, you ended up getting it fixed. I ended up getting it just in the right amount of. So okay, guys, here's the pads. These actually they're not worn down a super amount, but you know, we got the brake kit, we're gonna put it in. So it's your pads. So now that the pads are out, what we need to do is compress this brake caliper piston, the single piston in the back here. We need to compress that back into the caliper. And I found I want to say this was part of one of my Cognito brace kits for the truck. I don't know why I would have a nut this big, but I just grabbed this big nut and push that there. Grab your big C-clamp and go to town. Alright guys, so like I was saying, get the C-clamp on here. You'll be able to tighten the piston back into the caliper. And when it gets tight, you're good. And as you guys can see, the caliper piston's been pushed all the way back in. Alright guys, we got the clips in. Honestly, no real advice on these, just take the old ones out, stick the new ones in, make sure you put them in the right spot, and if you need to, grab a screwdriver and just kind of wedge it into the corners that they're not going in. These are all in pretty well. Yeah, these all look good. And now we're going to start with the pads. Now what we're going to do is actually, I learned my lesson from the driver's side. We're actually going to put the outer pad in first because the inners seem to slide in on the driver's side. I had a lot of trouble getting this outer pad in. I'm not sure why. The inner pad literally just clipped right in. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to lube up the back of the pad and put the outer pad in first, and then put the inside pad in. Alright guys, at this point, you're going to take your brake pad and the lube brake grease that came with it, lube grease, whatever you want to call it. We're basically going to put some on the sliding edge as well as the pad itself, back of the pad itself. So Powerstop doesn't really give you a lot of brake grease. I think with the fronts, I must have either used less or, because I'm pretty much out. I have other brands, but at this point it doesn't really matter. So basically, I'm just going to put some grease on the middle of the pad, and then the sliding edge is what I was trying to say. So basically, almost the same, like kind of with the Brembo. So you've got this whole sliding edge on the top, and then the bottom the same sliding edge. Just gonna put grease on the edge, the outside of it. You don't need to do the inside, just the outside edge, and you should be good to go. So here and here, top, bottom, and all right, there you go. Like I said, back of the pad, the leading edge, back of the pad, and the leading edge. So now we're gonna do the inside, I'm sorry, the outside pad, just because like I said, I struggled with the driver's side a ton, and we will put this in. Now, there's one trick to these pads, this install. There is actually a clip that you have to push down for the pad to slide into. I'll have to demonstrate that with the factory pieces. Well, I'm not even sure if they're factory, but the pieces we took off. If you guys don't have the metal sliding clips pushed in all the way, just the right amount, the pad won't go in. That's how tight the tolerances are on these pads. Honestly guys, this is why I like Brembos, because you don't have to deal with this crap. Brembos and PBR are the same way. The 6-piston PBRs I have on the Corvette. There's no sliders. There's sliders, but there's no clips. There's none of that garbage. It's just a piss poor design. And I'm not blaming Powerstop. This is just a piss poor design of a brake caliper. Brembos are so much better. It's just my opinion. So what we're gonna do is make sure that the top is pressed all the way, and I can actually already see it's not. Alright guys, same thing for the last pad, the inner pad. Just put some grease on it. Spread it around with your finger. And make sure you do all the leading edges. Now you guys might actually have to reapply the grease on the sliding edge. I had to do that with this outer pad because it wouldn't go in and I had to manually take it out 2 or 3 times, and you don't want to squeak. So I mean, the one advantage of the Brembo, disadvantage of the Brembos is that they love to squeak and squeal. I don't think you get that with these type of calipers. So, but alright guys, the driver's side, sorry, the passenger side outer pad is in. We gotta stick the inner pad in. Alright guys, that's it. Man, I don't know why this outside edge is such a pain. Both sides were a pain in the ass. So, caliper is now ready to go onto the rotor. Now, before we do this, guys, check the pad surface, make sure you didn't get any grease on it. I actually had to clean the driver's side because I was messy and got crap all over it, but this side's clean. I don't see any grease. But that's also is part of that. It's due to experience. You know, you're going to not have a problem because you've already done this once. Alright, the caliper is pretty much on there. I just need to get a bolt into it. And these are going to be those 17mm bolts that you pulled out earlier. And when you get the bolt started, probably tighten it halfway down. That way you just make sure you got your bolt through the spindle and into the caliper bracket. That way you tighten it down, it won't strip out on you. So, alright guys, we are done with the caliper mounting. Basically, all we do now is tighten the bolts down. And again, it's 17 millimeter. Just use your ratchet. Tighten them down. Now, these bolts are going to be torqued down to 4 pounds. So make sure you use your torque wrench. Set to 40. And depending on spacing, alright, top bolt's done. The bottom bolt's kind of a pain because there's a lower control arm. Honestly guys, I don't know what the Toyota name for it is. There's 1, 2, 3 control arms. 4. Man, so there's 4 arms holding this rear independent suspension up, going up and down. It's this front one that your torque wrench is going to be in the way. So torque that down to 40 pounds, both sides. You're good to go. And one last thing, grab a clean piece of paper and clean up your rotors one more time, just because we had a bunch of crap come out. So there you go guys, that's pretty much going to be your brake install. And that's pretty much going to be it guys. I mean, this isn't super complex. You know, it doesn't have 4 pistons like the front, it's just a single piston rear. And put the wheel back on, torque it down to 76 foot-pounds, and then follow the braking procedure, which we'll go over in a second. Alright guys, here is the finished product after we broke in the pads on both sides. Here's one side. Here's the passenger side. And as you guys can tell, the pad material has already started to breaking on the rotor. And here's what the fronts look like after about a year. You can see there's really not any corrosion. And where the brake pad is running against the rotor surface, the zinc plating is still looking good on the hub, as well as the part that the pads aren't reaching. So that's gonna be it for this project, guys. They want you to follow the braking procedure, and you do 5 aggressive stops from 40 to 10, but you don't come to a complete stop, and you do them back to back to back. So do that 5 times. And then they want you to do 5 moderate slowdowns from 35 to 5. Again, not coming to a complete stop. And then they want you to let the brakes cool down for 5 minutes. So what I did, I live pretty much out in the country. I did the 40 to 10, 35 to 5 back to back. I let it cool down a little bit, and then the 35 to 5. Then after that, I just went down a long country road. It's about 5 miles one way, 6, maybe 10 miles actually. I just kept it at like 30 miles an hour, let people pass me because I wasn't gonna slow down, you know, to a complete stop, let people pass me when I needed to, and just went down to the end and turned back without touching the brakes. I touched the brakes a little bit to do a U-turn, but that's it. And the brakes aren't squealing, they're not making any huge noise. And before I got home, you know, right before at the end of that road coming toward the house, I did some aggressive like 60 to zeros, and this thing stops like crazy. Like these pads work really well. Like I was fairly impressed with just doing the fronts last year and doing the rears now. Like, I think you guys, if you want a cheap upgrade, I think Powerstop would probably be the way to go. And The install was pretty simple. The fronts honestly were easier because there was no clips to deal with. The backs were kind of a pain because you had to do those clips. But that's not Powerstop's fault. That's just the design of the caliper from Toyota and Lexus. So it's just, it is what it is. So that ended up being kind of a pain. But otherwise, the kit's complete, has all the clips, and actually has a couple extra clips in it, which must be for another model or something. But extra parts, that's not a bad problem to have sometimes. So it's better than not having enough parts. So I really recommend these rear brakes as well as the fronts. You know, I'll have a link in the description below to both sets of the part numbers for the front and rear, and I'll have a link obviously going to the other video. And yeah, if you guys want a fairly affordable brake upgrade, you know, do the fronts and rears at the same time and you'll have a totally different car. And these parts don't break the bank. Like, I think the backs were only like 150 and the fronts were just over 200. So you have 350 in brakes, and that's about it. So I also want to thank Powerstop because they offer a really good product and, you know, great affordable price for a brake upgrade. And yeah, and you guys can find the Powerstop at powerstop.com or through any of the online retailers. Like I said, I'll have links in the description below to all that. So that's it, guys. If you guys like the video, give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. And also hit that bell notification button. That way you guys know when I upload new content. And if you want to help support the channel, click the links below. Thanks, guys. Bye.